low, and then no risk for storms Thursday and Friday. Here's the high resolution model, the HRRR, which updates hourly, and it wants to bring those storms on down into the southwestern tip of Indiana, so even into Evansville a little later tonight. However they develop, they're going to be short-lived and move through pretty quickly, and then we clear out again early tomorrow morning, so we really don't have any other weather worries except for heat, and a lot of it here coming up on the 7-day forecast. We may be looking at some of the hottest temperatures of the year in September there if we get up to 97 degrees. So that is something that doesn't happen too often around here. Often we will see, a few hot days, but to get a whole week's worth of them in September, not unheard of, but certainly not the norm. The smoke from the wildfires in Canada continues to drift down here, and you probably saw it at sunset. The sun was very red again tonight. Also, we have a full moon, or close to full moon right now. Before the clouds moved in, you could tell it kind of had that orange cast over it as well. Smoke forecast, I kind of talked through it, but we expect more of the same for Thursday and Friday. 81 feels like 84. It's real muggy for a change around the area. We have temps in the 80s, except where we have rain or near the storms. With that outflow wind, it's slightly cooler there in the north, and feels like temperatures have drifted back into the mid-70s across western Kentucky. Our low this morning got down to about 66, and our high today was around 88, and that puts us right in that warming trend. Look out to our west, though. They had 93 at Jonesboro. Thunderstorms knocked that down. 96 at Springfield, and we have all that warm air, very warm air, hot air, set to move in later. Rainfall for the month, we are in good shape. There are almost 4 inches, and if we get any more tonight, that'll add to the surplus. We've seen the monthly rainfall before. We'll go past that one, but for tomorrow, the rain will be out of here. It'll be clearing and warmer during the day with temps in the 80s. Notice that the severe thunderstorm warning in Knox, let's see, one of them was just cleared there. I think we had one, or it was redrawn here just to include Washington and the southeastern corner there of Knox County out to the southeast of Monroe City. Again, if you're sitting in Petersburg right now or north, you're seeing a lot of lightning, maybe getting some rain. Those storms will likely pass over or just to your east. Let's put a loop on that again and see if we can kind of discern. Yeah, they're moving to the southeast, so you are going to get some rain at least out there on the north end of Petersburg as those come through. Once those showers resolve, we're done with rain. There really is no signal for rain coming up beyond tonight, and that means in addition to the hot temperatures, it's going to be very dry through the weekend and next week as high pressure moves in. The GFS model really stingy with any kind of rain, at least through the weekend and the first half of next week. Our rainfall potential with those storms tonight, not too impressive, maybe a quarter to half an inch under the thunderstorms, but every place else probably a lot less than that, if any. 68 with partly cloudy and those thunderstorms rolling in. 88 tomorrow, mostly sunny. The next 7 days have that heat wave kicking in on Saturday with 90, and then we have mid-90s early next week, upper 90s Tuesday and Wednesday, part of a trend for warmer than normal temperatures into September and drier than normal start to the month. This is Leela, our pet picture tonight, and while Leela's cute, I'm going to put it back here on the radar so we can kind of keep an eye on these storms while I answer your questions. And I see we're on the Facebook feed here tonight, so let me see what you want to know and want to talk about. Good evening. We got Jeanette Rice is on there. Jeff Miller's on. Good evening, Jeff. Laura Gray, Dawson Springs. Always good to have you here, Laura. Jerry Blemker, heavy rain and thunder in Petersburg. Thank you. That's the information that we need. Let me, I think I can't do it with both hands here. I got to put the phone down and let's zoom in on those storms back there to the north. That's interesting. There it goes. And I'm just going to put a loop on and we'll just kind of watch them here. They're actually part of the Science Corner, so this all plays into my master plan if there is one. All right, and we'll do that, and you can kind of watch those. It's mesmerizing to watch a looping radar there. But thanks again there for the report from Jerry Blemker. Rex Aish, would I call these storms an anomaly or continuation of yearly trends? They're not an anomaly. I mean, if conditions are right in August, September, we do get thunderstorms. Typically, we don't get much severe weather. Now, when I say that, I mean like tornadoes. Severe thunderstorm warnings, yeah, we get those every month just about. And this isn't anything out of the ordinary with a cold front coming down from the north. So, but not a big concern either, if that makes sense. So, there's not a tornado risk out there. I showed you the inside of that storm earlier. There's not any rotation showing right now. So, that's kind of what we do here behind the scenes. I'll watch that after I go off the stream here. I'm not anticipating additional warnings unless something gets crazy down here in Pike County. But you'd be looking for these red reflectivity, the stronger reflectivity areas in there, and somewhat dense, consolidated right in the middle. I'll just kind of segue into Science Corner because I mentioned it earlier. One of the things that we look for in storms like this is large hail. And we have a cluster of severe storms, actually a line here from about that would be Martin County, so north of Lagodi, and then into Mitchell and on over here towards Salem and to the east toward Interstate 65, Seymour, that area. And if we were to take that part of the storms, we could look at any, but these were a little more picturesque. If we look at them in 3 dimensions, so we're looking at all the different cuts that the radar makes of the storm in what we call the volume scan, right? That's the whole thing from the lowest antenna elevation, which is about 1/2 degree off the surface, all the way up to 19.5 degrees. And so what we're seeing then is a depiction of the heaviest rain areas. And what we look for in here are cores, right? Consolidated areas that have heavy reflectivity, because that oftentimes is where we would see the hail forming. And that's usually in conjunction with the highest concentration of lightning. That's where you have the most vertical motion in the storm. An updraft, in other words, to pull that moisture and warm air up, and then you would have a downdraft near it, bringing the rain and possibly hail to the ground. If the storms produce hail, and these certainly could, as you see here, our hail size estimator there showing purple, so some large hail possible. And what the hail size estimation is actually, we're looking at what we call vertically integrated liquid, or VIL, in the radar return. And that is looking at how much liquid is integrated up and down, right, vertically. And the thinking here is the more you have, of course, the larger the hail could become. But there are some caveats, as there always are. You have to have a sufficient layer of sub-freezing air. The freeze level needs to be kind of low to the ground. And so there's not really a one-to-one correlation between VIL, the VIL number, and hail size. VIL can run from 50 to 75, 80 units. But it's not a tidy little conversion, right? Like if the VIL is 35, you have 1 inch diameter hail. That doesn't work. Sometimes you do, but not very often. And so basically what this tool does is it just gives us the area to look at with suspected hail. The hail that we're trying to track and look at on radar can show up as a bright return on there. And hailstones are born in the updraft in a thunderstorm. Water droplets are swept up into the sub-freezing air aloft, and they freeze. And those little chunks of ice then are heavy, and so they start to come back down unless another updraft or the updraft pushes them back up. And so hailstones tumble around in a thunderstorm, and while they do that, they pick up layers of water, which make them larger and larger. And some hailstones, if you were to look at them, they look like an onion, right? They have layers of water on them. Others are kind of jaggedy. Those tend to form in supercells, where you have a lot of turbulence and rapid velocity, both up and down. But typical hail would be round in shape there, and is the result of the updraft holding water droplets above the freeze level, so they turn into ice. Now eventually they get so heavy, gravity wins and pulls them down to the surface, and once that happens, we get hail on the ground. Now, typically here in the tri-state, hail sizes in a storm like we're looking at tonight would be in this range, around mothball, maybe penny-sized in spots. If we get stronger or more severe thunderstorms with stronger updrafts, they can support larger hail, so like quarter-sized hail. And another proxy for hail size, of course, would be the updraft speed, if you can figure that out, looking at a couple of the parameters on the radar. Really big storms, supercells and the like, can produce very large hail, but you need an incredible amount of updraft to do that, sometimes over 80 miles per hour, and that's just the updraft to produce, say, baseball-sized hail. So there's a lot going on in thunderstorms that sometimes can produce hail, but oftentimes we just get heavy rain or gusty winds as a result. All right, we have a few more questions have trickled in here. Suzanne Daly's watching. Cheyenne Hammond's on there. Good evening. Dave Holman, science question. What makes storm clouds black from a distance? Well, a couple of things. One, it would be the rain inside of them. It makes them more opaque, right? So the sun can't get through or the light can't get through, so they have a dark appearance. Sometimes people report kind of a greenish tint to the sky. Oftentimes that is in conjunction with hail in storms. Not always, but many times. And then the other issue has to do with the position of the sun relative to the storm. At sunset, you know, everything's going to look really dark because you're basically looking at a silhouette if the storm is moving in and the sun is behind it. When a storm hits at like 2 in the afternoon, when the sun is directly overhead, it's trying to shine down through that dense cloud and it becomes dark outside. In the case of a storm producing a tornado, you have dirt and debris being lofted into the storm, which makes it even darker. And you've seen, you know, videos from storm chasers and that of these big supercells out in the plains that are pitch black as they rotate because they've sucked up dirt in addition to all the water that is rolling around up there too. Misty Sensmeyer, good evening. Is the storm going to be bad in Mount Vernon? I don't think so, Misty. I think most of these are going to move east of Mount Vernon. And I don't think they're going to be particularly bad. I think they'll put down some hail, if anything, but mainly just heavy rain, thunder, and lightning. Nancy Perry's on. Good evening, Nancy. Let's see here. I think that's all your questions. So with that, I'll put it back on the radar one more time here before I let you go, just to basically reassure you, we don't need the countdown here. We'll just go right to the next. I wonder if there we go. Okay, you know what I'm tracking. There we are. This is what we're tracking, thunderstorms. And I wanted to bring that up too. Notice that the severe thunderstorm warning was canceled early up here in Daviess County. Not a big surprise. These storms really don't have much oomph behind them, and there's energy in the atmosphere, but not a lot of lift, not a lot of shear and so forth. So these tend to be more what we would call a pulse type storm. They pulse up, last about 30 to 40 minutes. At their peak can produce gusty or even damaging winds, but then they rapidly decline. And there's one other thing I'll look at, and that is we'll look for outflow boundaries with these storms. Now, these are harder to see, and what I've done here is I've turned the radar so that it's showing a lot lighter precip. And if we had an outflow boundary, which is the wind that's generated when a storm collapses, we'd see a thin blue line kind of kicking out from there. We're not seeing that yet, so these storms haven't completely kind of rolled over and started to become more outflow dominant, but they are likely producing locally cooler air around Petersburg, and that air then will be forced down as the cold front moves in. So again, I don't think we have any severe weather to worry about tonight. Just good old-fashioned thunderstorms, mainly north of I-64. I'll have an update on the weather on 14 News at 10. In the meantime, stay safe. Thanks for watching the First Alert Weather Show at 9.